The real reason SpaceX built the Starship. NASA has made one of its most effective plans open to the world for the longest time. The firm has stated that they intend to fly astronauts from the United States and land them on the moon. Aside from the Pentagon's intention to utilize this opportunity to transport military supplies across the globe in seconds, Elon Musk also refers to this plan as the holy grail of space technology. It considers it to be one of the fundamental necessities for his eventual aim of populating Mars. Will this plan eventually be actualized? Stay tuned to the end as we uncover all you need to know about the real reason SpaceX built the Starship. A massive shining spaceship is currently being developed to transport NASA humans to the moon, called the Starship. SpaceX's Starship spacecraft and super heavy rocket, collectively called Starship, are fully reusable transportation systems designed to transport crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. The Starship will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle. It can carry more than 100 metric tons to Earth's orbit. The Raptor engine, which drives the Starship launch system, is a reusable Methalox staged-Combustion engine. Amazingly, each Starship rocket is designed with 33 Raptors. For this reason, the company had to increase its effort to double the production quantity. Raptor engines first flew on the Starship prototype rockets in July of 2019, becoming the first full-flow staged-Combustion rocket engine. Starship is dubbed the future for SpaceX, Elon Musk's private space enterprise. Its success or failure may influence whether or not the firm realizes its ambitions. Wait, what has Elon Musk got to do with all of this? Let me tell you more about how it all started. In 2021, NASA awarded SpaceX $2.9 billion to create a Starship variant for the agency's first 2 moon trips under Artemis, a multi-billion-dollar human effort to return people to the lunar surface. The idea is to use the moon as a testing ground for future Mars expeditions. However, this expedition will confront several technological challenges. NASA must first successfully test another massive rocket, the long-delayed Space Launch System, to send people to the moon. That massive rocket system will launch the Orion crew capsule into lunar orbit. It will connect with Starship and transfer the astronauts on board before heading to the lunar surface. Starship is also expected to be the focal point of SpaceX's revenue-generating launch business, transporting commercial and government satellites. According to the corporation, the rocket would be critical for launching satellites for SpaceX's satellite internet business, Starlink. To complete the constellation, many more Starlink satellites are required. Starship could launch hundreds at once, compared to the roughly 60 that can fit on a Falcon 9 rocket. It will also interest you that SpaceX isn't new to the game. Before this time, the giant tech company has been flying Falcon 9, a rocket with a reusable booster that has become one of the most dominant launch vehicles in global spaceflight since 2010. Although despite its greater power and size, the rocket system is expected to be less expensive than the Falcon 9, owing to its reusable architecture. Without providing any details, Musk has suggested that Starship flights could cost as little as $2 million per launch instead of Falcon 9, which costs approximately $62 million. Now that's quite a vast difference. What's more, Starship is the next generation, envisioned as a massive reusable rocket vehicle that might be less expensive and fly more often. Starship is intended to transport satellites farther and at a lower marginal cost per launch than the Falcon spacecraft. With a payload compartment bigger than any fairing in service or construction, Starship opens the door to new missions, including space telescopes larger than the James Webb. Since 2019, the rocket has progressively emerged as a gleaming sentinel in stainless steel, reflecting the sunshine at a launch site in South Texas near the Gulf of Mexico. Starship prototype testing has resulted in fiery failures, leading to a successful flight and landing in May of 2021. Musk claimed that Starship will enter orbit for the first time in 2022, after a series of premature announcements and delays. Space-driven individuals and tech enthusiasts are excited for this one. Upon its success, the Starship moonshot will demonstrate the spacecraft's capabilities to land on and return from the moon. Even before reaching the moon, SpaceX is expected to launch numerous tanker starships into orbit to act as gas stations for the eventual moon-bound Starship, which will need more fuel to land on and take off from the lunar surface. The orbiting refueling experiments will involve 2 starships mating in orbit, a challenging and hazardous effort. After Starship's development phase, SpaceX will have a potentially profitable portfolio of missions. The next trip, scheduled for 2025, will transport NASA personnel. SpaceX also hinted that its Starship will be of different categories, the cargo Starship and the crew Starship. However, they are both suborbital starships. Crew Dragon is SpaceX's first crewed spacecraft, based on the Dragon cargo capsule used for resupply services to the International Space Station. Crew Dragon capsules have transported people to space on 5 distinct trips since their debut in 2020, including Inspiration 4, a private crewed mission funded by billionaire Jared Isaacman. Crew Dragon is also NASA's sole reusable spacecraft to transport humans to and from the International Space Station. SpaceX's Crew Dragon capsules have successfully transported passengers into low Earth orbit and docked with the International Space Station. However, thus far, the corporation has divulged nothing about the devices it is building to keep people safe during a lunar voyage. SpaceX was awarded the Commercial Crew Transportation Capability contract for 6 flights with NASA in 2014. The agency requested 3 more Crew Dragon missions from the business in February. SpaceX will earn around $3.5 billion in total just for the 9 trips. That's amazing. SpaceX has been testing Starship prototypes at its Texas facility, most recently landing and retrieving prototype SN-15 during a high-altitude flight test. While SpaceX is attempting a feat no previous rocket has accomplished, reusing rockets quickly to make spaceflight more like air travel rather than the traditional approach of discarding the rocket after launch. The most recent high-altitude flight test was the first to end without the prototype exploding. The rocket has yet to reach orbit, according to the business. On the other hand, rocket cargo is a term that adequately defines SpaceX's Starship rockets. Since the military program will look at entirely reusable commercial rockets capable of launching between 30 and 100 tons. Point-to-point space travel is a mode of transportation. A rocket launches into space and then returns to a different place, theoretically capable of transporting goods or potentially people from one side of the Earth to the other in under an hour. Starship is currently the only rocket in development that intends to be reused and can launch that much tonnage. So much has been invested and put in place for the Starship production. So far, the goal is for Starship to launch from Starbase, travel to orbit, and then land softly on the coast of Hawaii. Not only must engine manufacture be complete before the liftoff, SpaceX is also still waiting for the Federal Aviation Administration to conduct an environmental study and obtain a launch authorization for the orbital test flight. The FAA has pushed back its scheduled publication date for its final ecological assessment many times and expects it to be available to the public on March 28th. The evaluation will decide whether the Starship launch can go as soon as feasible or if any additional time is necessary for a more detailed environmental impact analysis, which could take several months or longer to complete. Furthermore, the rocket is planned to return to an offshore landing pad in the Gulf of Mexico. That's quite an achievement. This navigates us to the big question: how does Starship plan to land on Mars? SpaceX claims that a 7.5 kilometer per second Starship will reach Mars' atmosphere and decelerate aerodynamically. The spacecraft's heat shield is meant to sustain numerous incursions. Still, considering how hot the vehicle is entering Mars' atmosphere, we anticipate some heat shield ablation similar to wear and tear on a brake pad. The engineering video below models the physics of Starship's Mars arrival. The sole passengers aboard the Starship will not be government astronauts. Yusaku Maezawa, a Japanese billionaire and the founder of apparel business Zozo, has declared his intention to travel around the moon and back on board Starship in 2018, alongside Mr. Musk at SpaceX's Southern California headquarters. Initially scheduled for 2023, that expedition will probably be postponed to 2025, as stated earlier. Although it appears that Mr. Maezawa decided not to wait for SpaceX to undertake his first voyage beyond Earth, instead traveling on a Russian ship to the International Space Station in December of 2021 for a 12-day visit. Do you think SpaceX will accomplish the reason why they built the Starship? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Stay tuned for our channel for more updates of space news coming your way soon.